Right. Hey everyone, round one of the Longevity March Madness tournament just wrapped up, and I'm going to preview the winners and losers for the first time. So you'll get to see my reactions in real time. I don't know how many final votes there were, but last time I checked, it was more than 200. So we had great participation in round one. I hope we will get similar participation in round two. All right, first up from the lifestyle bracket. Number 1 versus number 16 was Italian Grandpa Lifestyle versus Not Smoking. And let's reveal the winner. Looks like Not Smoking won at 88.8%. So 12% of people like the Italian Grandpa Lifestyle. All right, next up was High Fiber Diet against Sleep Optimization. And looks like Sleep Optimization also won at 86% of the vote coming in. So far, a couple of blowouts. The next battle was Social Connections against Abstinence from Alcohol. And the winner is Social Connections at 83%. Plyometrics Training against Healthy Body Composition, Low Visceral Fat. The Healthy Body Composition, Low Visceral Fat wins with a whopping 90% of the vote. So far, round one has been pretty lopsided. Okay, next up, this might be closer. VO2 max optimization, including HIIT training against Sense of Purpose. And the winner is VO2 max at 50.5. Wow, that one was pretty close. I actually thought Sense of Purpose would pull it out, but looks like the community prefers VO2 max optimization. All right, and given the connections between mortality and VO2 max optimization, correlative though they may be, that's a reasonable choice. Okay, ketogenic diet against Mediterranean style diet. I'm thinking Mediterranean probably wins. And indeed, 93% of the votes are in favor of the Mediterranean diet. High quality nutrition, avoiding ultra processed foods against zone 2 training. I'm guessing the nutrition is going to win. Yep, 72% versus 28% for zone 2 training. And then this is the last one, I believe, in the lifestyle division. Moderate alcohol consumption up against strength training. I don't think there's any question here. Strength training for the lopsided victory with 97% of the votes in favor of strength training. Okay, that was the lifestyle division. Up next is medicine. We have the 16 versus 1 is B complex optimization against blood pressure optimization. I'm thinking blood pressure wins. 87.6% of the votes indeed in favor of blood pressure. Ooh, metformin against PCSK9 inhibitors. This is a tricky one. Metformin certainly has had a lot more attention in the longevity community. The data is pretty mixed. PCSK9 inhibitors, really no good evidence for a healthy population at this point, but I'm guessing the PCSK9 inhibitors are going to come out on top. Wow. Okay, this was not as close as I thought it would be. 75% in favor of PCSK9 inhibitors as a longevity intervention. Ooh, SGLT2 inhibitors against male hormone optimization. This one is super tough. I'm guessing the SGLT2 inhibitors are going to win. Yeah, 67% against 33% for male hormone optimization. Personally, I'm not sure that I would agree with that, but the audience has spoken. Okay, next up, bisphosphonates against maintaining oral health. I think oral health has to win this one. Yeah, wow, 97% of you agreed with me on that. Next up is low-dose aspirin against GLP-1 agonists. Again, this is kind of tricky because we don't have great data yet for GLP-1 agonists in a generally healthy population. And low-dose aspirin, of course, has been around for a long time, did come out of the interventions testing program for lifespan in mice. I think probably GLP-1 agonists are going to win mostly because of, I think, expectations rather than actual data at this point. Wow, 90% almost, 88.7% for GLP-1 agonists. Female hormone optimization against PDE5 inhibitors. I think female hormone optimization is the clear winner here, although PDE5 inhibitors for improving blood flow makes sense. Yep, 83.3% for female hormone optimization. Proactive healthcare against vitamin D optimization. I think vitamin D got a bad draw here, unfortunately, going up against proactive healthcare. Got to think proactive healthcare is going to win. Indeed, 79% of the vote for proactive healthcare. Vaccination against captopril, no question in my mind, vaccination is clearly going to have a bigger impact on mortality and longevity at the population level. And indeed, you agree, 83% of the vote for vaccination. Okay, now we move on to the geroscience round. Tough draw for GSK 212-64-58 going against caloric restriction and intermittent fasting. I got to think caloric restriction is going to be the winner here, although personally I'm very interested in the GSK molecule. Really no data outside of C. elegans at this point for longevity. Yep, caloric restriction, 85.5% of the vote there. And next up is epigenetic reprogramming against spermidine. This is a tricky one. So I think it's kind of like the GLP-1s in the sense that people may vote based on expectations rather than current data. Right now, I'd say there's more data for spermidine, but the upside, the ceiling, certainly is higher for epigenetic reprogramming. That would be my pick. And indeed, 69% of the vote for epigenetic reprogramming, but relatively close. So 69.4 versus 30.6 for spermidine. Okay, glycine against alpha-ketoglutarate, sustained release. That's Brian Kennedy's specific request for the alpha-ketoglutarate. Again, this one's, kind of tricky. There's a little bit more data for alpha-ketoglutarate. Glycine, of course, came out of the interventions testing program. Alpha-ketoglutarate did not actually extend lifespan in the interventions testing program. So mixed data there, but I'm thinking alpha-ketoglutarate probably is going to be the winner. No, glycine, wow, so that was a surprise to me. 57.4% pick glycine over alpha-ketoglutarate. All right, glycine moves on to round 2. AKG is out, sorry, Brian. Okay, next up, parabiosis therapeutic plasma exchange against astaxanthin. Again, I'd say these are pretty evenly matched. I would personally go with parabiosis therapeutic plasma exchange. The longevity effects of parabiosis, even though those experiments are complicated, are bigger than for astaxanthin. And I think the broader effects in terms of regeneration in multiple tissues, the literature is better for parabiosis. I also think parabiosis is more likely to work. If we were to do that in humans, therapeutic plasma exchange can at least get half of that equation. So I would pick parabiosis. But again, you guys, come on. Disagreed with me. 57.4% of the vote for astaxanthin. Astaxanthin moves on. Therapeutic plasma exchange is out in round 1. Okay, next up, IL-11 inhibition versus acarbose. I could go either way on this one. I think it's, data for lifespan in mice for both. Acarbose probably has better human data at this point, although that's mostly because we don't have yet great therapies for IL-11 inhibition in people. I don't know. I guess I would probably think the community goes with acarbose, and indeed 57.4 for acarbose, pretty close again. So we had some closer matchups in the geroscience division. TRIM, the thymic rejuvenation protocol from Greg Fahey / human growth hormone, going up against the classic senolytic dasatinib plus quercetin. I'm going to go for TRIM. We'll see what you guys did. Yep, wow, this was close, guys. 50.8% for TRIM against 49.2% for DNQ. A tough loss for DNQ. TRIM moves on to round 2. Wow. Okay, urolithin A up against NAD precursors. Again, a pretty even match, I would say. More data, certainly, more papers on NAD precursors, more people talking about them, but pretty mixed, actually. Data for NAD precursors, a lot of irreproducible studies in the primary literature, small clinical trials. Same thing with urolithin A, just a lot less literature. So I think the community's probably going to go for NAD precursors. That's probably what I would do. But again, it's almost a coin flip in my mind. No, wow. So urolithin A upsets the NAD precursors 59% to 41%. I guess there's not a lot of confidence in the NAD precursors out there. Okay, rapamycin against cerebrolysin. Got to think rapamycin with the blowout win here. Indeed, 95.1% versus 4.9%. And then now we move on to the biohacking / experimental therapies round. So here we have up the optimization of metabolic health versus circadian optimization. I got to think metabolic health is the winner here. Yep, 71%. So not as much of a blowout as we saw for the other 1 versus 16 matchups, but optimization of metabolic health still the clear winner over circadian optimization. Next up is high quality multivitamin against psilocybin. I guess it just depends on what direction you guys want to go. So there's one mouse study on psilocybin. The lifespan data looks pretty good. Not much evidence in humans, really, certainly not for longevity. Some evidence for certain kinds of psychological or emotional conditions. High quality multivitamin, been around forever. It makes sense, I think, in people who have deficiencies, but again, not a lot of evidence that multivitamins are associated with long-term positive health outcomes in people. So I'm going to guess the community went with psilocybin, but again, could go either way. No! Okay, so I was wrong. High quality multivitamin with a 61% of the vote over psilocybin. So I guess you guys just aren't quite ready to adopt the psychedelics at this point. Next up, heart rate variability optimization against the healthy processed food concept. I'm not sure how many people really got the healthy processed food concept or like that concept, the idea that you can engineer processed foods that are optimally healthy. And then again, I don't know how many people really believe that heart rate variability optimization is going to have a big effect on longevity. So again, I could see this go either way. I'm going to go with heart rate variability optimization as my guess. And indeed, 70%, 69.4% of the vote for heart rate variability optimization. Next up, sauna against Brian Johnson's blueprint. This is the one you've all been waiting for. Pretty sure most people are going to go with sauna. I actually don't think very many people believe that Brian Johnson's blueprint is a great strategy for longevity. Certainly there's a lot of good stuff in there, including sauna, but when you over-engineer the system, in most cases, you're actually going to make things worse. So I'm guessing that sauna is going to win, and I don't think it's going to be close. Yep, 88.7% of the votes for sauna. Brian Johnson only got 11% of the vote. So looks like the community agrees with me on this one. Next up, regular sexual activity against hyperbaric oxygen therapy. It's really hard to vote against regular sexual activity. I think that's going to get the majority of the vote here. I do not expect this to be close. And indeed, 88.7% of you agree you would rather have sex than experience high oxygen in a tube. Okay, or at least you think that's going to be better for your longevity. Next up, creatine against blood filtration and apheresis. I'm going to go with creatine. Neither of these I don't think are really going to be particularly effective for longevity or health span, but I think creatine certainly has a lot of data supporting at least better body composition when combined with regular physical activity. So I'm thinking creatine is the winner here. Yep, 87% of you agreed with me, creatine over blood filtration. Next up, clotho gene therapy against environmental toxin avoidance. This is an interesting matchup, actually. So clotho, if I had to pick a gene therapy to do, not suggesting you do this, I'm not planning to, I'd probably go with clotho. I think that the mouse data is very compelling. There's human evidence that people with variants in clotho that lead to higher circulating levels have improved health outcomes and reduced mortality. Environmental toxin avoidance, obviously reducing your exposure to toxins, particularly air pollution, I would say, if you live in a highly polluted area, going to be beneficial. So I'd say right now, environmental toxin avoidance, I'd give it the nod. And you agree with me, 82.3% in favor of environmental toxin avoidance. And then I think this is the last one in the biohacking round. Sublingual NAD against omega-3 optimization. I'd say way more data for omega-3. Let's see if you agree. I think this won't be close. Yep, 93.5% in favor of omega-3 optimization over sublingual NAD. Okay, so that is the results for round one of Longevity March Madness. Some surprises in there for me, but by and large, I think you guys made the right call. Be sure to get out there and vote for round two.